Well, the state of Maine is suing the Trump administration for federal funds withheld over transgender athletes in women's sports. One female high school athlete is calling out the unfairness of competing against a biological male. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener brings us an inside look at the controversy.
Maine's small towns, rugged coastlines, and tight-knit communities create a peaceful scene. That quiet is being rocked, however, by the debate over who gets to compete in female sports. It's put Maine in the national spotlight over its state policy, caught between federal pressure and public opinion. Nestled in the state's northern tip, Presque Isle is known for its snowy winters and vast farmland. Now it's also home to one of the state's youngest voices, speaking out on the transgender sports debate.
It shouldn't be my goal to beat a biological male, but it was. And when I didn't, it was super defeating.
For high school senior Cassidy Carlisle, the issue is personal.
I believe that God has created spaces for women to flourish, and we need to protect those spaces.
As a varsity athlete in 3 sports, her first challenge came not on the field, but in a middle school locker room, where she had to change in front of a transgender student. The issue followed her into high school, where the junior faced a transgender athlete in Nordic skiing, an opponent who had previously outperformed several of Cassidy's friends in track.
He placed in like the bottom 15 or 20% when he competed against the males his freshman year in high school. And as he transitioned, he became one of the top female runners.
Males have natural and categorical advantages over females in terms of strength, speed, and power.
Cassidy is certainly not alone, as this transgender debate in women's sports spans from high school to the Olympics, raising critical questions about fairness in athletics.
There are, I think, 3,600 trophies have been lost. 6,000 top-tier finishes have been lost in 11,000 competitions.
So far, more than 24 states have passed laws or regulations restricting transgender girls and women from participating in sports inconsistent with their biological sex.
Now those laws are being challenged in court.
Transgender rights advocates, however, argue the playing field has never been level in women's sports.
I think it's irrelevant because we allow all kinds of competitive advantages within women's sport.
In February, President Trump weighed in by signing an executive order barring transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. States refusing to comply risk losing federal funding.
The war on women's sports is over.
Days later, the focus moved to Maine when Governor Janet Mills publicly pushed back during a White House event.
Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And
the Trump administration quickly moved to investigate Maine's compliance with Title IX, which prohibits discrimination based on sex. It concluded that the state violated the law by allowing biological males to compete in female sports. The controversy reignited when a transgender athlete from a Maine high school recently won the girls' pole vault event during a Class B state championship. The year before, when competing as a male, the individual tied for 5th in the same event and 10th at the indoor state championship. Adding gasoline to the firestorm, Maine's State House censured Republican Representative Laura Libby for identifying that student in a social media post.
The member will not be able to cast a vote or speak on the floor until the member has come back into compliance.
Libby then sued the House Speaker for violating her right to free speech.
It's mind-boggling that we're here discussing this and that this is not just a foregone conclusion that males are males, females are females, and males do not belong in female sports. It's basic biology.
In 2021, Maine changed its Human Rights Act to prohibit discrimination based on gender identity.
It's not about transgender sports. It's about who makes the laws and who enforces the laws.
They want our girls to be comfortable sharing a locker room with a biological male. They want our kids to have a different perspective than their parents' generation on the value the beauty of gender and sexuality as God created us.
Republican Liz Caruso is sponsoring a bill that would ban transgender athletes from competing in female categories and require Maine schools to designate facilities based on biological sex.
Maine policy has been ignoring Title IX protections, and it has caused chaos and discrimination.
As the debate rages, polls show that 80% of Americans believe transgender athletes should not compete in women's sports.
Full of hope for the state of Maine that our voters, our communities, our parents, our churches are going to engage in a way that they never have before.
As for Cassidy, she's staying in this political competition, from rallying against the governor's transgender policies to attending a White House roundtable, followed by national news appearances.
You feel like you don't have a voice, but that's not true.
While she plans to step away soon from athletics to focus on college, Cassidy hopes her actions will help empower future generations.
Who's to know what opportunities could have come had this individual not been competing against us?
Experts say Maine's legal and legislative developments could shape transgender rights, both in sports and broader policies nationwide. In Portland, Maine, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Well, I hope you hear that heart cry. Who's to know what opportunities were lost because I was forced to compete against a male? When you look at competitive athletics and look at college scholarships and the ability to advance and have a future where your college degree is essentially paid for because of your athletic ability, all that is taken away when you're competing against males. You have a biological disadvantage. And that's the whole purpose behind Title IX, is to restore equality so that women's sports have equal footing with men's sports. Why not just do it based on the biology? I don't understand this push to somehow create special set-aside for transgender athletes and for sports programs. We're already hearing loud and clear from the Olympics. We're hearing loud and clear from the NCAA. And so there's no future for them in women's sports because they're transgender. So why not look at it at the high school level and say, let's just follow the biology. But common sense seems to be thrown out in all of these debates and somehow making pathways for men to compete with women and somehow advance in sports based on that. I just don't get it. We need to go back to the basics, and the basics are they're men and they're women, and when you have competitive athletics, they need to be separate, they need to be equally funded, and they need to be protected.
Are miracles real? Let's investigate.
A lot of skeptics will say, well, miracles are impossible. Why? Because they violate the laws of nature. You can't violate the laws of nature.
I looked at my hand that was clutched. I said, hand move.
We got the 21-25.
Hallelujah!
He's dead. It's over. I said, shock him one more time.